Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur podcast. Today, my guest is Lei Mohr. Lei intuitively guides people through frustrating and confusing life experiences to realize their purpose, attain self-awareness, and have success in life. She is the channel for the wisdom keepers, and she's had multiple near-death and near-death-like experiences and a shared death experience. Today, we're going to talk about all those things, plus some unique tools that Lei offers to help people understand and move through challenging situations in their lives. Hello, Lei.
Hi, it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to talk to you about your experiences and your background and how you're helping people now, particularly young people, right?
Particularly young adults, yes.
Young adults. Awesome. But first, I guess I want to ask about the wisdom keepers that you channel. Who are the wisdom keepers exactly? What wisdom are they keeping?
They have told me that they are the wisdom keepers from their own civilizations that have been lost. This would be Atlantis, Egypt, Angkor Wat, um, uh,
Lemuria, whatever.
well, which is actually Mu, and the person from Mu likes it. Mu is the real name.
Oh,
Lemuria was a name that was put on it by a Westerner, and it's actually a falsehood. But there's also like 𝐾𝐿 and the greatest civilizations that were the most technologically advanced, and that's what got them in trouble is they did not keep it as a tool, and they allowed their power structure at that time, whomever that might have been, to have to take their power away from them through and with their technologies, and that's what brought their civilizations down. So that's the wisdom they're holding right now. They really want us to get through this time and to move beyond it and have the world that we could have, that they had wished that they had.
wow, that's fascinating. So, um, are they were the people humans or ETs that lived in the civilizations? Do you
I
know?
don't distinguish. I think all ETs are people, but they are people who are, like thousands of generations ahead of us.
Right.
And so, yes, the people who were here were humans, and most of them, they have shown me pictures of them in various forms. Some are tall, some are short, some are very thin, some are, they're different colors of skin and hair, and they look
Kind of like us,
kind of like us mostly. Yeah,
mostly. Yeah.
the one from Mu, who would probably now be called a Minahuni, but that's also a term put on them. Um, he's very like he almost looks like a box. He's very short, probably 3 feet or less tall, and his body looks like a box. And I always find that to be fascinating that he is that muscular. And then you've got the Atlantean, who is very tall, very graceful, outstandingly, breathtakingly beautiful. And there's just they're a variety.
Wow, that is fantastic. Do you see them? Uh, do you see them physically, or just kind of outline? You obviously see them physically, if you can, or have a vision of them.
Most of the time I don't, but they did show me themselves. The first time they showed me themselves was on the um, Schumann resonance anomaly, the day of that, which was about a year ago in June, and right at the solstice time. And there was you can look it up online. There was this enormous anomaly then, and a lot of the scientists were like, we can't explain it, we can't explain it. And a lot of us who feel things, I didn't know this at the time. I wasn't studying it. I didn't find this out until much later. That's how things work for me. But I just was sitting on the couch during this time and feeling, I mean, the energy then was amazing. And I just looked out my window and I saw my neighbor's backyard, which is there's a lot of trees, and she's got chickens and geese and all kinds of things back there. So it's not really particularly neat. And in this, what most people would consider mess, all of a sudden I started seeing all these people kind of in a group and kind of parading toward me. And I'm like, wow. And then they explained who they were. And I was like, that's who I'm, because I've had a long relationship with these people. That's who they are. Wow.
Nice to put a face to the name.
I'm kind of,
Sort
yeah.
of.
I mean, it's not necessary, but
Yeah,
it's nice to know who they are.
exactly. That's awesome. So, when did it start? Did you always sort of feel these folks around, even from a child?
I'm going to say that we've had a relationship for a whole lot longer than that, like gazillions of lifetimes together. I was probably around in some form or fashion when they had their civilizations, and they were the wisdom keepers back then. So we maybe knew each other. But in this particular life experience, I didn't, I knew that there were weird things going on in my life from like the age of 3. Um, but I didn't put anything into it at that point in time because I came from a very strict Catholic family. My father was very, very strict Catholic. And and as you know, my mother was very frustrated, confused, overwhelmed, and abusive. And the last thing I wanted was to, first of all, get her ire up. But the other part of that was if everyone around me told me that my family was perfect, which it wasn't, and that they loved me very much, which I didn't really feel, and that there was this place called hell. And if I so much as had a thought of all of this kind of stuff, I was going there, and that was worse than where I was. I'm like, I'm out on this one. I want no part of it. And
Totally
so
understandable.
it took me decades to be able to see that and eventually heal from all of that, even though I was not, I didn't practice or didn't be part of any kind of organized religion from the time I was 13. And it had actually started long before that. I could see that there was just things that were not right, discrepancies that didn't make sense.
Right.
And
And this is the only way to explain it.
yes, yes.
Exactly. So when you are channeling, how do you channel? Like I've seen channels, and some of them kind of close their eyes and become the entity sort of thing, and others kind of interpret what they're saying along the way. Which, how is it for you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I can do it the way that a lot of people consider it to be true channeling. Um, and I do that on occasion. Mostly, they would much rather just bring the messages through me in the way that is going to be most beneficial to the people hearing it, which sounds very much like what we're doing right now. Uh, but I know it's different because the words coming through are not mine. I don't practice them, not even when I'm doing something like a live webinar. I don't practice anything. I don't write it down. I might have a very brief structure, but I don't have anything written down. And I just let them go and do whatever they're going to do. And so it sounds sort of like I'm the one talking, and I'm not really the one talking, which
Right.
is kind of confusing for people. They're like, is that you or
So
is
you
that them? Yes, it
do
is.
you remember what you said after?
Frequently, I remember very little of it. I can watch it later and say, oh, yeah, that's what I said. Huh, interesting, cool. But I don't necessarily remember it. When I'm going into a session with someone or doing something like that, I have a little blurb that I say before I go into it. And I do that every time on camera, including this time. And it goes like this: Please bring through me today and always the perfect words in the perfect amount at the perfect time in the perfect way for the highest good of all. And then I just let it go. And I feel the energy come through me, and then it just off we go.
That's beautiful. So you're kind of channeling right now as we speak, right?
Yes.
Some of it.
Yeah.
Well, hello, wisdom keepers. Thank you for coming.
It's our pleasure.
Beautiful. So what are you the collectively, what is your purpose, do you think? What's the reason? Is it to work with young people?
It is to work with young people, especially now. If we're going to get to the other side of this, which is all this stuff going on, noise, whatever you would like to call it, they call it noise. Um, we need to be able to make sure that the younger generations have the tools and the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to do it. And that's what I'm here for, whether it be one at a time, which is one of my favorite ways of doing it, or whether it be to a group, which is like I'm doing now. I'm talking to your group, and I talk to lots of groups. And it doesn't matter how that comes through, it matters that it comes through. And that's how that's I'm a vessel, a channel, whatever you want to call it. And what I put out there, even if I'm talking to you, which is actually your group, at the same point in time, it's going out to everything in
Sure.
the Ethernet that's out there. And so the more times I get to put things out there, the more information is available to all of these people.
It's going out into the universe,
Yes.
which is always a good thing.
And that's coming
So,
from the universe. So,
yeah, there you go. There you go. So most of your clients are younger people. Do they come to you for help with particular circumstances?
they come to me for support and guidance. And that's what I give them is the support and guidance, because each of them has an individual experience of this noise. And each of them has had an individual past from it with an individual family. There are some themes that seem to be coming up frequently. A lot of them are based on family history, family dynamics, family um, um, belief systems, which of course um, they call it limiting belief systems, which is LBS, which is um, the American version of pounds, which is heavy weight that you can easily let go of, and
Right.
you have a much freer life. Um, some people call it BS. You can, it's still belief systems, well, however you want to term it, and you can do the BS however you wish.
Right. Lots of BS. Yeah.
And again, it's all stuff that we've been told we have to hold on to because it's what have been told is the only way to be, which is absolutely belief systems, BS.
Right. And there's kind of rebelling against the belief systems that their parents are bringing them up to have.
Not so much as rebelling as breaking down the boxes. We've been told you have all these boxes, you have to fit in the boxes, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to look like this, you have to wear this, you have to all of this.
Mm.
Um, and they're saying no more boxes. The boxes don't work for us and they don't fit, and they're breaking down the boxes. And
Mm.
I help them break down those boxes.
Oh, beautiful. That's, yeah, I mean, the old um, go to school, graduate, uh, get married, have two kids, have a job, all the stuff that we were brought up that you got to do. I can see them saying well, they don't fit. They don't fit in that.
Well, and that's why so many of the young people are having so many issues with various ways of trying to um, self-medicate or deal. How do I just can't do what they told me I'm supposed to do.
How do I deal
How
with
do I
it?
get through this?
Yeah.
And uh, that's the ones that I really want to help, is those ones that they know it doesn't fit, but they don't know what to do about it.
Awesome. Yeah. And we talked a little bit earlier, and you mentioned that the other thing you're kind of going for is a type of business model, correct?
Yes, I think that that's one of those boxes that needs to be broken down,
Mm,
and it's a very large box with lots of boxes in it.
right.
The business model also does not, and if you look at it, everything in society right now does not fit the model that is to come, which is to serve all people equally. That means that all people have access to the resources equally. That means that all people have their own power equally, and they don't ask others to to give their power away, and they don't give their power away to anyone else. That's the model that's coming. That doesn't, so much, almost everything in our lives right now does not fit that model. And but it everything that's happening right now, all of this noise is coming up so that it can be seen openly, easily, and so that the generations coming can say, you know, that didn't work, that didn't work, break down those boxes, let's do something new.
Right. And now we can see with our own eyes how it doesn't work and how it doesn't work and why it doesn't work. It's not just sort of hidden under the surface anymore.
Yeah.
Like noise is probably a good characterization for it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's great that the younger generation is, it's a heavy burden for them actually to be the ones, the vanguard of this. It's going to be a complete change.
And at the same point in time, man, what an opportunity.
Well, yes, true, true. That's exactly true.
And that's why they came here at this time in the way that they did, experiencing what they are and what they have in the way that they have.
Hmm.
It is an opportunity.
Hmm.
And yes, it's a very, I mean, they get to be the heroes of the future generations.
Exactly, exactly. That's awesome. And so when you're having you do mostly one-to-one sessions?
I do one-to-ones. I will do also groups, or I'm not, I'm open to pretty much anything that
Hmm.
will help.
Whatever's needed.
But it seems like the major portion of them, because they have their individual experiences, even though they have themes in all of them that are similar, they like having the individual sessions right now. I think that's partially because they've been told how wrong, bad, whatever you want to put in there, they are, for being different, for being not, for not fitting in the boxes,
For being who they are.
for
Hmm.
being who they are.
Yeah,
And they first want to make sure that somebody hears them
yeah,
that doesn't say that.
exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about your near-death experience or experiences, whatever you feel comfortable um, talking about. Were you, was it, was one of them like a catalyst for your communication with wisdom keepers, or you had been talking to them all along?
um Kind of yes and no.
Mm.
There was, the first one was the first time I mean, of course, like I said, I never knew beforehand what was happening to me. I found out afterwards. But the first one, when I was 21, after the birth of my second son, was kind of the catalyst. And it was the one that most people see as most like what they consider, what they the box that they put around what a near death experience should be, which of course is all wrong because every one of them is different. But my first one was kind of like that, and it was, I was, it had been a very, very difficult birth, and the I don't blame the medical staff at all for what happened afterwards. It was intense. It was very fast moving. There was
So,
not time to think.
sorry, you gave birth, or this is your birth we're talking
I
about?
gave birth,
You gave birth.
like, to
Okay,
my
gotcha.
son.
I
Um,
gotcha.
and when I was 21. And so, I mean, he was turning flip-flops inside of me as they were, and they kept having to actually physically reach. Every mother out there, please don't feel this too hard. They had to physically reach up inside of me several times and turn him around with their hands. Yeah, I don't suggest this at home. There were marks of well, actually it was actually not in a hospital, but
Oh,
there were marks on the wall where I was my fingernails were digging into the wall
no.
to try and get out of the pain.
Oh gosh.
Um, and so it was intense, and I don't blame them at all. But after he was born, and he did get born, and everything then was, oh, he came out all right. He didn't have cords around his neck or anything. Um, but then just a couple days later, I came down with a very high fever, which was 111 Fahrenheit, which is 44 Celsius.
Whoa.
Yeah. And people used to tell me there's no, I saw it. I physically saw it on the thermometer, um, which we had back then. This is long before technology. Anyway, and I saw it on there, and I still remember that. And most people would say, well, that's not possible. You would have been dead. Yeah, I did.
Right.
I'm on the hospital bed. I'm laying there, 111 or 44. You're not moving. I mean, you are really, really, really sick. And so then I sat up and I turned around, and there's my body back there on the bed. Hmm. No thought, no feeling, no emotion, just, oh. And then I floated out and into a very, very pitch black, beyond black tunnel, which is like the beginning of all things. Um, I didn't know that at the time, but that's what it was. And it was very black, very, very, very black. But it was so blissful, so unconditionally loving, so non-judgmental, so just, oh, wow. And I'd
Pure
never
love.
felt anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm floating through this, and this is really nice. And I come to something that I perceive, because again, I can't see anything, as a widening or maybe a room or something, but I can't see anything. It still feels the same. And I'm like, okay. And I did perceive that I stopped moving. Well, okay, I'm good with it. Hey, this is wonderful. After my childhood, I'm really good with this.
I'll just stay here.
And then there was a voice, which I perceived as male, but I don't know for sure that it was male. I mean, it's just how I perceived it. And it was the kindest, softest, most non-judgmental, most loving voice I had ever heard. And he said, "Do you want to come now?" I realized instantly I had a choice, and that this choice was going to be life affecting for either me, well, for me, but also for anybody who would have been associated with me, especially my two children. And it was just like an instant. This whole thing happened in an instant. I mean, just, and I panicked a little bit, and I said, "I can't. I have two children to raise." And I felt, more than saw, perceived, I guess, a very gentle nod of the head. I went back down the tunnel, flopped in my body, and the fever broke, and I was out of the hospital the next day.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing. Do you think do you have any inclinations as to who that was?
I call him the voice. He's appeared, or not appeared. He's spoken to me many times throughout my life now. Um, and I've heard him, and I know who he is, and he knows who I am. Um, I don't have any picture of him, just this wonderful, wonderful voice.
That
And
is,
that's when, after that, people started coming to me for no apparent reason, apparently I have a very calming presence because of that. And they would come to me and they'd ask all sorts of deep questions that they wouldn't ask anybody else. And somehow something would come through me, whether it be a phrase or a sentence or more than that, whatever it happened to be. That was exactly what they needed to hear at that time. I didn't plan it, it just happened. So that was kind of the real opening, but the rest of it is all, I consider it a timeline of events. I don't consider that as one event and all the others to be separate events. They're all one event. And that was the bookend on one side, and the bookend on the other side was the shared death experience with my mother, which was the actual healing of the relationship that I had with her. I was very much into an adulthood by then, and I had realized that I really needed to heal this. I thought I'd been healing it for decades, and apparently not completely. And so finally, I just asked, how do I do this? And almost instantly, I found myself in a vision. I guess you'd call it a vision. I wasn't physically there, but I kind of was in a theater. And it was a dark theater. I'm the only person in the theater, and I'm in the front row in the middle. And I'm going, oh, okay. And then I see the director, and the director is me. And then I see the producer back up in the lights, and hey, that's me too. And I see sitting next to me the scriptwriter. Hey, that's me too. And I see the actor, and that's me too. And then it started, my whole life started going across as a play or a show or whatever you want to call it. But it was, this is not real. This is something that has been written, that you wrote. And hey, if you want to change it at any point in time, you rewrite the script. And then I felt, especially as I saw my mother walking by in this, I realized she also was an actor in this, and that we had chosen this before we came here. She chose to do all those horrible things to me so that I could have the foundation to be who I am and do what I do now, that I could not have done it as well without that.
And you chose to have the things done.
And I chose to have the things done. And that was so freeing. So I could then see her as loving me, we're all beings of love. That's what we are. And she loved me enough to do that so that I could be who I am today. And that's a whole lot of love. And that's when the healing started for me. Well, at this point in time, she was in prison for the murder of my former sister-in-law. And she had been there for quite some time, almost 15 years. And I hadn't seen her, hadn't heard from her, hadn't had any connection to her in decades.
Yeah.
I did know she was there. I did know that she had killed my sister-in-law, but I hadn't had any contact with her. So I'm going along, and I've had this healing, and I'm feeling much better about things, and I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm doing really well now because I'm feeling joy, and then one morning I woke up and I was just jittery, and I was just like, yeah, hey, oh, hey, angst everywhere. Oh, anxiety, and what's going on? I tried every method I could find to get through this. Nothing touched it. Nothing.
You had no idea what was going on.
No idea at all. I've never heard of these things. I don't know what's going on. I know the feelings. Okay, fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, I'm not functional because it's so strong. And this went on for 3 days. On the third day, on the third morning, I woke up in the most freedom and bliss and joy and love, and oh wow, it was, oh, this is amazing. Whoa. And I got, okay, I don't know what it is, but okay, I'm good with this. Well, my brother, who's who had been married to my sister-in-law, who was the only contact for the prison. He knew about these things. He didn't know what I was going through at that point in time. We talked. We were very good friends and had been for, I mean, he's my brother. Anyway, he called me that day, a few hours later, and he said, I got to tell you, the prison called and they said that our mother passed this morning.
Wow.
I instantly knew what had happened. I told him what had happened to me, but I had realized that I shared her leaving form. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but okay, whatever it is, it's something that needed to happen. Well, so that's how that happened. And that's how I healed from the great trauma of my early life.
When you were just describing that feeling, it when you woke up on that third day, it sounded very much like the tunnel that you had just talked about. So I wonder if she was in that tunnel.
She wasn't in the tunnel. And the difference was that when I was in the tunnel, I didn't feel the freedom that she felt when she left form.
Mm,
But I can tell you now, I know that none of us ever dies. There is no such thing as death. And I have no fear of going through the process. I know that there will be, I know that at some point in time, this particular form is going to return to Mother Earth. No problem. I know that my energy will never die. And I know that nobody else's ever dies.
exactly. It's just a matter of when you decide to come back,
Or if you decide to.
or if you decide to. I mean, there's no one over there, from what I understand, there's nobody over there judging you or saying you got to go back, or it's you, right? I mean, it's us that makes the choices.
It is you, but there's not really an over there. I see it more, the way that I explain it to people is kind of like the matrix in a game form. That, we are this being that we perceive ourselves as, and we can touch and feel ourselves, but it's all a perception. It's all not real. And it's like being a character. This is the character in the game trying to free itself from the matrix. And we're all doing that. We're all Neo. We're all Morpheus. We're all everything. And that's the whole point, is we are everything and everything is us. We are, each of us is that bit of divine that created everything, all that is. So we are all that is, as well as everything, and all that is us. And all that is who created the game. We, who we really are, is the player of the game. And we, as we see ourselves, is the perception of that player.
Exactly. You know, I was first introduced to this idea about 20 years ago, I guess, and it's sort of just been a wave, I think, ever since, and more people are understanding that it's not real. It's that we're playing a game, that we make all these decisions in advance, and there's some nuances that get a little muddy, but the basic idea is, we're drops in an ocean, and the ocean is the all there is, or whatever you want to call that, and things like that. And so in spite of, other things that are going on in the world, I feel like this wave is getting bigger. Do you think so too?
It is. And what I will add to that is we do have, and it's a very precious gift that no one, none of the beings that I've ever heard of will mess with. We do have free will. So we have points that, I was going to have a near-death experience. I was going to have a shared death experience. At the same point in time, we constantly make choices, and we choose our timeline based on those choices. And we can change our timeline and where we're going, what we're doing by those choices. Knowing that we are making those choices gives us the power and the opportunity and responsibility of how we have our experience. And that, I hope, makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, we're making these choices as humans, and as human, we don't have the benefit of knowing what was decided previously. Like we can't compare, well, if I just stay on this path, this will happen, but maybe I should choose something else now because maybe something else will happen. You know what I mean? You don't have the hindsight as a human.
This is not always true.
Okay.
I've had more than one timeline jump. Like when I moved back to Hawaii, because I was born here, it was a conscious process. I knew where I was. I knew where I wanted to be. I created Hawaii where I was in the very cold winter, well, in the place that had cold winters of the upper northern Midwest of the
Mhm.
United
It's
States.
cool.
It's cold. And I created Hawaii inside of my house to do that, because if you can, if your subconscious does not know the difference between a dream and reality, because this reality is a dream. And
Right.
so if you create this dream that you want, like for the new world, this is what I tell the younger people. If you create this vision, and I will give them my vision, and I'll say, this is a tool you can use, but at the same point in time, create your own vision. If expand on this, do whatever you want to it. But that's how you do it. You create a vision and you make it real. And that's how they will move forward in this. And I hope that makes some sense. But I will also tell you about another timeline jump I had that was spectacular. I mean, beyond all doubt. It changed everything. My son is a Buddhist chaplain in the US military, and he is currently stationed abroad. And he wanted me very much to come and visit him. And finally, we managed to work it all out, and I got to go visit him. 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks, maybe. I didn't time it. I started getting these feelings. Something's not right. And then I started getting visions, because where I live, in order to go anywhere, I'm going to have to go over a whole lot of water. I saw the water, and I started getting these feelings of water and the being in the water, and then can anyone survive this? And all these things are going through my mind. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I realized, oh, something's going to happen to that plane. And I thought, we can change this. We can timeline jump. And I was going to make, at first I was, okay, I see myself on the other side of this, on the other side of the water, safe in the airport. And then I started getting these, maybe it's not just me, maybe it's all these other people. Okay. And I know there were several other people. I don't know who they were. I will never know who they were, but other people who would be on that flight, who were getting and doing the same thing, seeing the entirety of all of us and the plane making it across that water, and being in the airport on the other side, safe and sound, without incident. So the day before I'm supposed to leave, I'm doing this, and I'm really visualizing it. And I get up that morning, and my husband had gotten up earlier, and he doing what he does, listening to the negative, worthless stimulation news. And as soon as I got up, he said, "Did you see about the plane?" I said, "What plane?" He said, the one that was over in and it was actually a flight from London to, I think, Sri Lanka, something like that. And somewhere in the middle, they hit, quote, massive turbulence, severe turbulence. And the plane apparently went, and people were flying out of their seats and bumping on things. And there was a bunch of people injured, but no one died. That's what we had been saying. Everyone on this flight survives. No one dies. No one dies.
Thank
No
goodness.
one died.
Yeah.
There was one guy who had a heart attack on there, but they can't prove that that was because of the flight. It might have been because he was going to anyway, but no one died. The plane landed. Lots of people got taken to the hospital, but no one died.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit later that day, I looked at, I'm not the kind to go around looking at myself in the mirror. I am who I am. But as I was getting in the bathroom and doing normal things, I looked at myself. My hair was slate gray, completely gray, and my face looked like a dry ocean bed in the middle of the desert. It was just all cracked and all, and I went, "Whoa! Look at that! Whoa!"
What happened?
As if I had been through a whole lot of water and dried out, a whole lot of salt water and dried out.
So this is telling you that you survived.
I survived, that I survived it. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something real quick. So I started doing it. I have things that I can do with my hair. You know, you put a little coconut oil in your hair because that's
Sure.
usually the dryness is some, I could see the lights going behind me. They're
That's
talking. I can see, anyway. So I put the coconut oil in my hair and I put coconut oil on my face, and because I've got to be on a plane tomorrow. I can't look like this in the plane. So I
so
started
did
doing
you
all this
really
stuff.
look like that, or was it
I
just,
really looked like that.
oh my
I truly looked
gosh.
like that. It wasn't just in the mirror. It truly, I really looked like that. I got on the plane the next day, went over and did everything. I spent the entire time continuing to do something with my hair to try and make it so it wasn't as gray, and putting stuff on my face so it didn't look as dry.
Oh my gosh. How long did it take to sort of go back to normal?
It was a work. I made it passable by the time I got there, but I continued to work on it, and I'm sure that they thought I had very greasy hair, and I'm like, you just don't even know.
There's a story behind this.
Oh, I'm
You told
happy to
them the
tell
story?
people the story. I told them the story, and I
Hmm.
told them, this is what happened and what I'm doing about it. And nobody said anything, especially my son. I mean, my son is very open to these, that, people have these interesting experiences, and he has interesting experiences, and,
Hmm.
you know, so it was all okay and everything worked out. But that's jumping a timeline. That is hugely jumping a timeline.
Yeah, and jumping it and coming back,
Well, coming back, but different.
but different.
When you jump a timeline, there's gazillions of different timelines all the time, and every time we make a choice, even what to eat, we're choosing a timeline.
Mm.
Now, in this case, there were two timelines going along, and we chose not to have that one. We chose this one, and going from that one, which we were on, and jumping over this one, you're going to come back changed. There's no way you're not. It changes the trajectory of your life. And that's basically the definition of a timeline jump. It changes the trajectory of your life. If you look at all the other ones, like, the Mandela effect and such, they changed maybe only in minor ways for most people, but they changed the direction of life. In this case, we changed the direction of life.
Wow, that is amazing. I think you should come back on the podcast and we'll have a discussion about time.
I'd be
Because
happy to.
that's a whole other topic, right? The nature of
I'd be
time.
happy to. I like talking to people and putting the information out there so it's more readily available for everyone.
Exactly. So, Lei, I'm just going to ask you for a little, what message do the Wisdom Keepers have for everyone today, just as a general kind of message?
Don't get lost in the noise. Know that this is a necessary part of getting to what's beyond, and that you will, well, not all of us will, but that humanity is going to make it past this and beyond this, and that the world that comes, the vision of the world that comes, where all people are equal, they're unique but equal in all ways,
Mm-hmm.
is coming, and it's being created by the younger generations right now.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. It's lovely. I have a quick question for you before we go. We're coming, it's November 2024 right now. We're coming into holidays and things like that. And there's bound to be some, there's always, you get families together and families and friends and big gatherings, and it's a place where conflict can happen. Do you have any tips for folks that are a little nervous about going into into a big family gathering or whatever's going to happen and kind of worried about how it's going to go?
First of all, breathe. Don't react. In every action, there's an action, then there's this teeny tiny minuscule part, and then there's a reaction. In that teeny tiny minuscule part, choose which way you want to go. Somebody says something, knowing that it's going to push your buttons. I'm not going to react. I'm going to choose peace. I'm going to choose breathing. I'm just going to be, and I'm going to let them be. That's their perception. That's their experience. I continue with mine.
That's beautiful. There's that little space. There is that little space in there, right? After it happens, where you have the opportunity to make a choice.
And if they continue, find another place to be. That means going outside for a little walk, or if that means, going to the restroom and sitting there, and I'm going to be. Separate yourself if you need to, but don't be separate. Understand, we're all part of the same whole, and we're all part of the same experience. They are just experiencing it differently than you are. And just be
That's
and relax.
that's a great way of looking at it. They're experiencing it different than you are. Not better, not worse, just different.
Just different.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So, Lei, where can people get in touch with you, and especially the young people that are looking for help getting through breaking down some of those boxes?
Well, the easiest way is my website, which is handle the shift, SHIFT.com. And there you can see a little more about who I am and such. There's also, I have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube actually asked me to turn it into a podcast. So, okay, fine, I guess I do. So now I guess I'm a podcaster. But it's me and my very dear friend most of the time. And we just talk about all of this stuff and the channel is called Human Conversations. And if you look up Human Conversations with Lei Mohr, you will be able to find that particular one. And like I said, it's either a podcast or a channel, whichever way you get it. It's the same information. You can also see some of the other videos that I've done on my website. And those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. You can also I try to remember to put on all of my podcasts my information, but you can also get a hold of me from the information that's on my website. You can email me. You can
Okay, lots of avenues.
lots of avenues.
Perfect. Well, Lei, thank you so much for being here. This has been totally fascinating and informative and quite inspiring. So thank you so much. And yeah, I would love to talk about doing it again sometime if you're up for it.
Okay, and thank you for the honor of being with you and on your podcast today.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.